the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and you are about to watch all the defensive free agents the 49ers have, if we should bring them back, or if we should just let them move on, and frankly, with our salary cap space, who we just need to let go because we have to.
And here's the secret. There's a butt ton of them.
There is a butt ton of them.
Kind of burns.
It does kind of burn a little bit. And I'm not
talking about football?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I don't know what the Niners are going to do, to be honest with you. There is a lot of options, a lot of juicy, delicious
I think their off-season plan is called Preparation H.
There's a chance.
Wow.
There's a chance.
It does feel good.
Yeah, that might get
on the whole.
Either Preparation H or some sort of lube.
Yikes.
At
Big
least
yikes.
a donut or something.
That's something. You could try and hide the ball there. That's beside the point. We got cornerbacks to talk about first on that list because there is a big name corner. In all honesty, there's a few big name corners on this list.
All of them.
We're going to start with the one that's on everyone's mind, though, the one that everyone's thinking about, the one that's kind of actually soured about the San Francisco 49ers just a wee bit. Good old Uncle Sherman, guys. And Uncle Sherman, how are we feeling about him? What do you think about him as a free agent? Is there any chance he's coming back to San Francisco?
Okay, he played for just about $9 million this year. I don't see the 49ers paying him $9 million. Not when they have to, go ahead and sign other guys. They have so many free agents at the cornerback position. They need to make sure they bring back at least two. They have pretty much no one under contract. So they need to make sure they do something there. And I think that the pressing issue is Jason Verrett, not Richard Sherman. I think it's time to move on from Richard Sherman, let him move to another team, and use the money towards Richard Sherman and Jason Verrett, and determine who could be his running mate, whether it's Ahkello Witherspoon, Emmanuel Mosley, or if they're just going to bring someone off the street that hasn't been a part of the 49ers organization. I think it's going to be interesting, Horst, what they choose to do, because they need to make sure they sign Jason Verrett. I think that's almost as mandatory as Trent Williams on the offensive side. But Horst, who could be a running mate with Jason Verrett this next year?
I agree with you, by the way, about Sherman. He's played, I think, 17 of the last 32 games.
Yeah.
You can't pay $9 million a year for that.
The best ability is availability.
And I agree with you that Jason Verrett is the most important guy here to sign. But I would also argue that K'Wan Williams I would make sure to sign before Richard Sherman too. K'Wan Williams is a very good player. I think the running mate for Verrett, what I would, in my personal opinion, is as long as for some reason some team doesn't come with an out of the blue high offer for him, I would retain Witherspoon. And I would probably also draft someone decently high at the corner position and kind of let them duke it out for that spot. But yeah, I don't see Sherman coming back. The one guy I do like that's on here that I thought played well, unfortunately got injured, is Jamar Taylor.
Yeah.
If they could get him at around the same price they got him last year, which was $910,000, I would love to have him back. I thought he was a very solid depth piece in the defensive backfield.
Absolutely, he was. Verrett is obviously the go-to. You have to get him. The concern I have with K'Wan Williams is how much he's going to cost, what his price tag is going to be. Horst, you're very high on him. You feel he's one of, probably, if not the best, one of the best nickel corners in the game. I think you feel the same way.
Obviously, yeah.
I feel the same way as well.
Even though he's only 76 on Madden.
I know, it's really depressing. And no ability trait, no high dev trait either. Normal dev trait. Come on, Madden, get your crap together. But that's beside the point, because the problem I have with the K'Wan Williams aspect of this is the fact that top nickel corner, one of the guys that gets paid the most in the league is Logan Ryan. He makes about $10 million a year. That's a lot of money on average to pay for a guy who's primarily going to be playing in the nickel. And the Niners are already hamstrung as it is. I don't know if you can find a way to get that done. So with that being said, I think the running mate number 2 for the cornerback position has to probably be Ahkello Witherspoon, and I believe Emmanuel Mosley is on a restricted free agent contract, so there is a good chance that you might be able to get him back on the cheap. And he could slide into that role potentially in the nickel cornerback role if you can't find a way to get K'Waun Williams signed for a small chunk of money. There were a couple of the names on that list that I thought had some potential also. Deontay Johnson showed flashes and spurts here and there. Horst brought up the other guy as well. There's a potential that you can get him back, but they have to be willing to take very, very small contracts, close to what they made this past season in order to get that done. And I just don't know if that's doable.
Well, right off the bat, Dante Johnson will be a league minimum guy. You can get him back if you want him. I think Jamar Taylor could be as well. And that might be what you see. You might see next year Jason Verrett, Ahkello Witherspoon, and Jamar Taylor playing that nickel role because K'Waun Williams might be too expensive. I think everyone would love to keep him. It's just at what money. And you remember last year, Logan Ryan went way almost at the end of training camp before he got signed by the Giants. And then he played good enough that they gave him the big contract. I'm not sure that K'Waun Williams is going to have a ton of people going after him to pay big money, but I think there will be somebody, and I don't know if the 49ers can match it. The 49ers are going to have to be so creative on how they pay these guys and which way. But that $9 million that Sherman left, if the 49ers could sign 2, possibly 3 corners with that $9 million, the money that they would save on the back end would be huge. And they've already proven that if you have one great corner and one pretty good corner or decent corner, you can make it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. We got to get over the hump, though.
Yeah.
Got to get over the hump. So can you do that with both? With one great corner and then an okay corner? Can you get it done? I think you can. I think we all agree that you can.
It all depends on the defensive line.
Agreed.
Well, I also think that's where a high pick like a Caleb Farley or a Patrick Surtain comes in.
Yeah.
If you pick one of those guys high and they come in right away playing at a high level.
If you sign Jason Verrett back and you draft one of those 2 guys, the 49ers will have the best corners that they've had together in the entire tenure with Kyle Shanahan.
That's correct. But we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Right? We don't want to get too far ahead. Draft special, that's a little ways. That's down the road. You have to wait for that content. Just a little bit. It's going to be great. I promise. The bet, huge. Great content. Great. Wonderful. Strong safeties. Free safeties. That's what we got to talk about next. We got a big name in there as well. A couple of them. Horst. Who do you got? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Safeties.
Here's the deal for me. We have 2 safety free agents, unrestricted free agents, Jaquiski Tartt and Marcel Harris. I like Jaquiski Tartt. I think he's a solid player, but he made about $6.5 million this year, and I think it's going to cost between 8 and 10 to retain him, and he is not worth that much money. He's a run-of-the-mill, a little above average in the box strong safety. I would much rather them move Tavares Moore to that position, or Tavares Moore to free and Jimmy Ward to that position, and run with those 2 at safety. You can do more things coverage-wise with Tavares Moore out there. Tavares Moore was definitely showing that he can bring the wood hitting towards the end of the season, and you're talking about a lot less money. So I think Tartt's one of those guys that's going to get paid pretty good by somebody else, and good for him. He was a good player for the Niners for the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm happy for him. Marcel Harris, he is your typical back end of the roster DB in that he's a really good special teams player, plays hard, but if you have to pay him any more than the league minimum, absolutely not. And I don't even know if I would bring him back at that because he is not very good in coverage. Actually, the only way I'd bring him back is if they made them a full-time move to that nickel linebacker spot that we've talked about. I would not bring him back to play defensive back.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that last sentiment there. Absolutely not under those circumstances. Jaquiski Tartt definitely is going to be walking. I don't think there's any way the 49ers are re-signing him. The cost is going to be too great. There are replacement options on the roster right now that you can use that can fit in just as well, I believe, with Tavares Moore in that position, or flip-flopping, moving Jimmy Ward across and playing more there. And I do believe that there are some good potential out there in the draft in rounds 3 and rounds 4, especially where they could go get a safety and a guy who may surprise some people. There might be some diamonds in the rough a little bit later in the draft. We'll get there eventually at some point, but I think because of those factors and those things, there's no way Jaquiski Tartt is in a San Francisco 49ers uniform next season.
I think the Jimmy Ward signing is really what proved that they had decided Jimmy Ward was more valuable than Jaquiski Tartt, because you knew Tarvarius Moore was going to be playing eventually. And I think that Jared Maiden also will be in the mix to get that depth. He will be more versatile than a Marcel Harris. Jaquiski Tartt just makes too much money. So both of those guys are going to be gone, because I think the 49ers are going to go away from just a pure box safety, and they're going to go to guys who can do both. The flexibility that they had with Jimmy Ward and Tarvarius Moore, the way they were able to switch coverages and also blitz both guys. Both guys can play in the box. They're both physical. They're good tacklers. They're fast. Both of them can play in the slot. They have corner skills. It's a way better defensive scheme when those two guys are in the system. So I think that it just makes sense. The 49ers are actually a better team without Jaquiski Tartt than they were with him. And so moving forward, that's what you have to do. And then Jared Maiden has the same sort of skills that those guys have. He's another guy that can cover in the slot and play safety. So it's another guy that fits the mold of what they're looking for. And I'm sure they'll address another position either through free agency or in the draft if it's a cheap, free agent. Maybe even look back at bringing in Jonathan Cyprien again. We'll see what they do there. But I think they'll address it. But I think that they have at least the two starters down pat.
So next up, we only have one unrestricted free agent here. So that core is pretty much set for this year. Alex, how do you feel about the linebackers?
Joe Walker is the only free agent. It's probably see you later. Maybe, I don't know. It depends on how much money he's going to command. Correct.
Well, he made $850,000.
He didn't make a whole lot, so if he can get closer to what the legal minimum is, and you're not having to pay him a whole heck of a lot, you probably can. I imagine he doesn't have much of a market out there, if any. So you can probably bring him back and you get some continuity in your linebacking room. A guy who's been in the system and played here for a bit. And that may lead to them cutting some linebackers that they have currently on the roster that may save them some more money than what he may make with his league minimum salary. So there's a good chance that you can see a guy like Joe Walker coming back. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much of an impact that would have. If there's a better option in the draft, they feel like, we could see Joe Walker maybe potentially walk as well. Who knows?
Joe Walker's gone. I don't think there's any way that they bring him back. He's a special teams guy, so somebody will probably pick him up at least to go through training camp, see if he can make it on special teams. But with them having, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shaair as the starting linebackers, they're pretty set. Then they're really high on Flanagan Foles. He played well down the stretch. So there's your fourth linebacker. You only have to come up with the fifth one. They have Mark Nzocha, who I think Mark Nzocha is going to get cut. That'll save the 49ers about $1 million. And then they have, Griffith, also the young guy who they signed the futures deal with. And we'll see what he can do possibly. But they've proven that they can take players lower in the draft or undrafted and develop them at linebacker. They have two right now with Flanagan Foles and with Azeez Al-Shaair. And then they possibly sign safeties and develop them into into linebackers, which they've done with Flanagan Foles. He was rumored to be a safety coming in. So the 49ers are making moves, and they can find talent late to give this depth, save money by getting rid of Mark Nzocha. He just didn't do what he did in 2019. He wasn't on the field as much. Azeez Al-Shaair definitely took his role, and I think the 49ers are locked in at the linebacker position.
Yeah, you pretty much took what I was going to say is Joe Walker's gone, and Joe Walker sounds like a guy that you would draft on Madden, by the way, a generic name, Joe Walker. The guy, and then I was going to bring up also that Mark Nzocha, he's gone. He's $1 million in cap space if they release him. When you're a borderline roster guy and just special teamer, it's not great to miss 10 games. Which he did this year. And he's getting older. He's about 30 years old. So they're going to be looking to bring in, because even if you pay a 23, 24-year-old the league minimum, it's less than paying Mark Nzocha the league minimum. So I don't see any way those two are back. But I think I agree with you. They like Flanagan Foles. They do like Jonas Griffith. And I think you'll see them bring in maybe another undrafted or late round pick.
On to the D line. I think probably the most important aspect of this defense.
Say it again.
most important aspect of this defense. The D-line, the most important aspect, the thing that Kyle Shanahan has talked about, how you want to build your team around, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and the ability to put pressure on guys. Some names in here as well. A lot of decisions to be made, and unfortunately, a lot of guys who I think we're going to have to part with. And what are you feeling on this position?
You know what? Going through this is kind of a who's who of names. Like, everyone's going to recognize them. We almost need to talk about each guy because they're so important. You know, first off, Solomon Thomas, I'm going to bring him up because, you know, he had the disappointing injury, but he made over $7 million this year. We know for a fact they declined the fifth-year option, so you know, that would have locked him in for a lot more money. So that was smart by not doing that. I think Solly would love to come back. And at a discount rate, I think they could bring him back. He was going to start going into this season. He will probably not start next year if he came back because Javon Kinlaw has a stranglehold or taking a bite out of it like he did a squirrel.
That was impressive.
But he's got a stranglehold on that position. And Solomon Thomas is the guy, though, they could bring back for depth, but only at the right price. If Robert Solo leaves, I could see Solly leaving with him. Yeah. But, you know, he's someone that's definitely interesting. Then we got guys like Ronald Blair, who didn't play all year. I think this might be the swan song for him. Yeah. The 49ers already parted ways with Julian Taylor after his bout. Maybe Ronald Blair. I think that they really like him. But horse, Kerry Hyder, 49ers, I mean, I think they'll do everything they can to bring him back, but I'm afraid that he's going to be priced out because he had 8.5 sacks. Somebody's going to give him some big-time money. Do you think they can bring back Kerry Hyder?
The fan in me wants to say Kerry Hyder will be back. But if you want me to be realistic, I would say that he's probably not going to be back. Yeah. 8.5 sacks is a good year. NFL teams are always looking for pass rushers. It's just going to be really hard because with how strapped the Niners are, you're talking another team, if they just offer him $5 million a year, it's tough for the Niners to match. Yeah. He's one of those guys I'd love to have back, but being realistic, if the cap does end up being higher, like we did speak about a little bit, I think he'd be a priority of theirs to keep. But if the cap is the 175 like we're worried about, no way. Then we have Ziggy Ansah. It's hard to pick my favorite Ziggy Ansah moment with the Niners. There's so many of them.
I think it was the signing.
From the day he signed to the one game he played in.
In our video, they came out way before anyone else. That was a
good vid.
That was a really good vid.
He's not coming back. Dion Jordan and Jordan Willis are both guys I think they'll try to bring back at very low prices. I think Jordan Willis, especially if Saul is back, because I think Jordan Willis is a project of his and Caceres they really liked. And the one thing I liked about him is he plays with a really high motor. Mm-hmm. Now the last guy, Alex, I'm curious what you think about this. He was key on the Super Bowl run, but now with some of the players we have and how much money another team will probably offer him, DJ Jones. Not to mention how many games he's missed now.
What was the cap number for DJ last year? It was very, very, very low.
Yeah,
600,000? No, 800,000.
It's
$600,000.
I think you're thinking at least $3 to $4 million a year. Someone's gonna offer him.
Well, after what Sheldon Day signed with last year,
he make?
So Sheldon Day makes about how much?
1.75.
Oh, he makes about $1.75 million.
1.175.
No, it's 1.75.
We just looked this up too. 1.75. Horse chef over there with the math.
I can just read.
He's really good at reading. So 1.75 for Sheldon Day. DJ Jones. What? 3? You were just talking.
We're talking double that because he was DJ Jones's backup.
It's true. So about $3 million roughly, somewhere in there, just over that.
Maybe more.
Maybe more than that. If you can get DJ Jones for about $3 million, there's a chance. I would say pull the trigger. It's a lot of money though for a guy that may not start.
I was going to say, is he going to start over Kinlaw?
That's the question. I don't I don't believe so, and that leaves questions up in how much are you willing to pay? How much is DJ Jones actually willing to take? Is he willing to take a home team discount?
And how much better is he than Kevin Givens?
That's a wonderful question. Kevin Givens, especially late in the season, Kevin Givens did look really. Because
Kevin Givens is probably making $600,000 to $700,000.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
So
probably not unless he's willing to take significantly less. And I don't think there's any way DJ Jones is taking significantly less money.
Well, one thing about DJ Jones is he tweeted after the season, know your worth. He's not going to take any discounts. He's going to want to max out whatever he can get.
Which I don't blame him.
No, not at all.
People will pay him for being a starter on the Super Bowl team last year. He's going to make decent money, and the 49ers are going to be moving on. They've proven they can develop interior linemen. They definitely, Kevin Givens could possibly slide right in there. But I think it all depends on, what happens at the end. If for some reason D Ford cannot come back, they're going to need to draft an edge rusher because they need to be able to move Armstead inside a lot of times with Kinlaw. And so that's going to be something that they have to really look into. I think if they could get Kerry Hyder back on a decent amount, but even then he's going to be a rotational piece. But I think if he could have added improvement and even more stats if he was playing half the snaps that he was playing. He's playing the whole game instead of playing 35, 40 snaps, which he would have played if he'd had Bosa and Ford, and then also rushing from the inside on passing downs.
That's definitely going to help Kerry Hyder out.
Yeah, it could have been huge. I don't think he wants to leave Kasarik, just because that only times he's had real success is with Chris Kasarik. But I think he's going to look at it as an opportunity to cash out. And if somebody gives him a big contract, I wouldn't blame him for taking it. But as far as Jordan Willis goes, I don't know if they're going to bring him back now. Because, he didn't really show any improvement during the season. So it's all going to depend on what Chris Kasarik thinks. I think Deion Jordan might come back because Deion Jordan did get better during the season. Plus, Deion Jordan's already stated he wants to retire a San Francisco 49er. He grew up being a 49er fan. So he's somebody that'll play for the league minimum. So as a depth piece, Deion Jordan is somebody the 49ers can definitely re-sign. I know he's not a big, sexy name like some of the other guys, but as a depth piece that can play on that defensive end and set the edge a little bit, hey, why not possibly bring him back for depth reasons?
I don't disagree with you there. I think that's a good option. It's not a bad option for the 49ers to have. The D-line, the end situation, again, it shows how important depth is with what happened this year. So it's something that Lynch and Shanahan are both going to be looking at heavy. They're probably going to try to address it a little bit in the draft as well. I don't think you see a first-round selection this year like you have in years past because I do think they have other holes that are more pressing needs at the moment than a D-end or a D-lineman.
Even if D Ford retires or is cut?
Well, I think it depends on some other things that may happen with some other players and some other teams that we've discussed that we don't want to spoil on this episode of the podcast. We got some juicy stuff coming for you, so make sure that you are subscribed. Subscribe to the 49ers Cutback right now. Hit that button just one time. If you hit it twice, you unsubscribe. Subscribe, hit the button, hit the notification bell as well. Like the video as well. That way you get notified when that juicy special episode comes out regarding some highly well-known named players that may become available at the D-line position that the Niners could try and scoop up this offseason.
Yeah, I think if the question is, Horse, because the 49ers would save $6 million with D Ford if they cut him or moved on from him, would you cut him, or if he's healthy, would you keep him even at his $20 million cap hit?
If he's healthy, he's a game changer. That's a difficult decision, and one I'm glad I don't have to make, to be honest.
Yeah.
One other name I was going to bring, I know he's not a free agent, but he could affect what defensive lineman they bring back. A guy that I believe you made the comment too, that really caught my eye too the last 2-3 games, Alex Verrett.
Yep.
What did you think?
I thought Alex Verrett played really well. I think he needs to put on a little bit more size. But I thought that he was getting in there and making plays. Yeah. And he was a guy I didn't see coming from New York. I think he earned himself at least a real go in training camp. Yeah. So he'll be someone to watch. He'll be with the 49ers through camp. Whether he makes the team or not is going to depend, I guess, on who else they have. I mean, the name that everyone likes besides me is Darion Daniels. I'm sure that he's going to be, doing something because they think he's the next Kevin Givens. So, I mean, he's a name that if we don't bring him up, we wouldn't be doing our job. But I think that he's someone that they're also going to be looking at, and that's also another reason DJ Jones is probably on his way out. But Alex Verrett was actually not too bad. I mean, I think he needs more size.
I had no idea who he was.
Yeah.
And then they put him in, and I think he was 64, right?
Heck of a number.
It was.
He was, and the first time I saw him, I was saying, who in the world is 64? You know, it was one of those, these guys are coming in and out, COVID, all that. And then, whoa, 64 was just, you know, pressure the quarterback.
So
whoa, 64 made a tackle in the backfield. So I looked up who it was.
Jim Burt.
Well, definitely wasn't. No, it wasn't that.
Jim Burt hurt Joe Montana.
Jim Burt also won a Super Bowl with the 49ers.
He did win a Super Bowl.
But he hurt Joe Montana.
He made it up with a win with the 49ers.
Trade-offs. You don't always get what you want, Horst.
But he hurt Joe Montana.
But then they killed Denver.
It's true.
The one thing is, Parag is going to have his hands full. Him and John Lynch figuring out how to work out these contracts. I guess we're going to see probably the most creative contracts we've seen in a long time.
Just call up the Chiefs, figure out what the heck they did to re-sign Patrick Mahomes to an outrageous contract, and then immediately re-sign Travis Kelce to a large contract as well.
Yeah, until Sammy Watkins gets cut, and then they start losing players. Now, will they get possibly a second championship out of it? Maybe. And then in that case, it's worth it, right?
I mean, unless you hamstring your franchise for the next 20 years with Patrick Mahomes' contract.
You want your franchise to have strong hamstrings. That's a good thing.
Plus, I mean, if you could tell me that I could get 2 championships for 20 years of losses, I would take it. Look at the 49ers. We got 1. And I'm still like, oh, yeah, I would take another one. It's been over, how many years.
Hey, look at the San Francisco Giants. They're on that trend.
They are.
That's true. 3-5. I'm someone who's a little bit more.
I'm
a guy. See, as a fan, I'm a little bit more on the sustained success. I do want them to have a Super Bowl championship. I don't know if I would trade 2 Super Bowl championships for 15 years of garbageness afterwards.
I would,
or a decade of terribleness afterwards. I would prefer we find a way to get 1 Super Bowl and then stay relevant, and maybe you can sneak another one out, or 2 or 3 over the next 10 years.
All you're asking for is 3 championships?
You know what?
Yeah, I'm greedy. What can I say? I'm greedy.
Let's ask the people. Okay. Hey, let's ask the people. What do you guys, would you rather have 2 championships and then lose for 20 years, or do you want to win 1 championship and then be good enough to make the playoffs
or win another one
for 20 years?
I'm just saying, like, I want us to have an opportunity. There's no guarantee that you're going to win one after that first win, but if you're relevant and close...
And mine, you won 2.
I'm aware of that, but then you're absolute terrible trash for 2 decades. That's 2 decades of my life. I can't give... that's cut. That's 2 decades of my life that I cannot get back. Like, I can't get it back, and my team sucks. They suck.
Yeah.
I spent... You don't understand. It's not fair. Y'all spent the 90s, the glory days of the 90s, remembering of the early 80s and 90s. My apologies.
What are we, a year apart?
We're a year apart. You're right. You, Ant, spent a good portion of the 80s and the 90s. Remember the glory days of the Niners? I was a child. I don't remember any of it. I witnessed it. Some 94? Of them. Huh?
How do you not remember 94?
I was only 4 years old.
I remember.
I was only 3 years old at the time.
I remember Joe Montana defeating the Miami Dolphins, and I was like 1.5.
I remember the game, but you don't have the same level of appreciation for it at 3 or 1 that you do at 15 or 20 or 32.
The Niners beating the Bengals when I was 24 days old.
Congratulations!
I will tell
remember it clear as day.
You don't, but you didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, I totally.
I'll tell you what I appreciate. The fact
that was my first words. Go Niners!
I do appreciate the fact that the 49ers' first Super Bowl came the same year I was born.
It's true.
Me too.
Yep.
Well, not their first, but
their third.
They won a Super Bowl right when I was born.
Oh, that was their second Super Bowl. No, third Super Bowl.
Yeah. 88. They won that one and the next one when I was born.
That's pretty impressive.
Then Roger Craig fumbled away the third one.
Yeah, that was when they realized you had been born.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus! Mistakes have been made, boys. Mistakes have been made.
There's a disturbance in the force. Wait, they thought there's a disturbance in the horse.
Oh!
Then they won another one when I got to kindergarten, so I would start school well.
I don't know what that means.
Maybe they just felt sorry for him.
Then a lot of crap.
No.
But see, that's the thing. We were relevant through the Mariucci days. To me, that was more painful than not being relevant.
I don't know, man.
Give me Dennis Erickson seasons.
No, I do not want Dennis Erickson. See, this is the problem. We've witnessed what the bad is, right? It's Dennis Erickson. All right,
And Mike Nolan.
It's Mike Nolan.
Mike Singletary.
Chip Kelly.
My God,
Wait,
the
Jim
meat
Tom
sweats. The meat sweats.
Wait.
I don't need any more meat sweats in my life. All right,
Wait.
we're sitting in this studio with lights beaming down on our faces. I'm already sweating my butt off. I don't want to see the meat sweats on the sidelines ever again.
First of all,
Never.
You're a walking meat sweat.
That's not
Second
nice.
of all, first we got Mike Singletary out of that. There's so many good quotes.
So many good quotes. Yeah.
I would like to congratulate Tomasula on his firing, and I wish him the best in all of his future endeavors. Eat it, Ron Jeremy.
Hey, one down, Mike Purcell getting cut to go.
Yep.
For you to have your vengeance.
Revenge.
Cut his hair off. He's like Samson. Without it, he's no power.
No power.
Does he have power with it?
No.
Power enough to stay on a roster.
Well,
Dude,
power.
he just
he's
got
got
like
power.
$2 million a year.
He did get $2 million a year. He really did get $2 million a year. It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, this has spiraled completely out of control.
It's true.
But it was great. It was fun, and we enjoyed it. Hopefully you did as well, and if you did, you should hit that like button. But we'll see you again on Tuesday, 5:30 Pacific time. No specific Pacific time.
That's accurate.
Right here on our YouTube channels.
Wait, I got a question for
Oh,
you.
man, I don't want to
Is
answer
it
it.
specifically?
No, it's not. It's specifically. It's 5:30 Pacific. My lord.
No,
Man,
I
let's chuck this
understand.
thing up.
But is it
Yeah.
specifically starting at 5:30?
Yeah, it's specifically
Oh,
starting at
thank you.
5:30.
Make sure to tune into our channel every Tuesday and Friday so you get the episodes. There's going to be some good ones, especially since we have some inside information on what could be happening with the 49ers pass rush in the future. Maybe somebody joining the ranks that no one's even talked about yet. Not even Grant Cohn.
Suck it, Grant Cohn.
So we might have the inside scoop on this. Make sure you watch it. But until then, guys, you know what time it is. Let's chalk another one up. He did. I don't know if that was an invitation or...
Does the guy's name rhyme?
Joe Walker.
Maybe Skowski Horst?
Ooh.
I dig Skalski.
Skowski's a dude.
Just teach him to tackle with his face up.
That would be important. That would be very important.
Just so when we play Justin Fields, he gets scared.
You know, yeah. You want Justin
Unless
Fields?
Justin Fields plays for us.
No, that's not happening. No, it's not happening. No, it's
What
not
if we get Dylan Moses?
Is he going to part the Red Sea?
happening. Oh.